And please welcome Christopher Rausch. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? It must be Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, because we are back with the Raw and Unscripted show, where we are live on video cast every single Tuesday. So come and join us if you're listening to us on the audio podcast. Come and join us live, where you can see my beautiful face and you can see my guest, and you can help interact with us in the comments section, because we're live on Facebook, we're live on LinkedIn, we're live on YouTube every single Tuesday, and you can check it out on replay as well. So thank you guys for being here, whether you're live or on the podcast. And thank you, by the way, for making us a top 10% podcast in the entire world. I'm truly honored for that, and appreciate you guys tuning in from over 20 different countries every single week, checking out the content, and we're continually growing. So thank you for that. Thank you for sharing this out. And tonight it's just me. It's just going to be me, myself, and I coming to you. We're going to be talking about procrastination. And let's talk about procrastination for a second, because this book, It's Just You and Me, Kid, the autobiography of yours truly, is coming out this year. I just signed a contract with the editor. It was going to help me perfect this amazing manuscript, which will change your life. So if you're interested in getting this manuscript and helping me make it a bestseller, you guys can go to itsjustyouandmekid.com. If you like things on the screen, there it is. Itsjustyouandmekid.com. Go there, get on the mailing list, help me make it a bestseller. You guys are going to get a bunch of extras, but I'm super excited about this. I did procrastinate on it for a little bit because it was supposed to come out last year. And quite honestly, I got to the end of it, and I sent it off to my publisher, and there was some hiccups and some challenges with it. I won't go into that, but ultimately I realized it wasn't time for the book to come out. And so I took a little bit of time to step away from it, to get some clarity on it. And now I'm super excited to be moving forward with it, because I know this book is going to change lives. I know that when you read this, you're going to be inspired. I know many of you know a little bit about my story, about being homeless and being a 7th grade dropout and going through some shit. But here you're going to see it in detail. And what you're especially going to see is the power of the hero's journey, the power of realizing that when we go through those valleys, when we go through those challenges, that when we reshape our perspectives about it, we look at those challenges as opportunities, and we look at that fear, and that fear becomes excitement. It's pretty incredible what you can get through with yourself. And tonight's episode, talking about procrastination and perfectionism, is really going to help you. So I highly encourage you to take notes. It's probably one of the most popular requests that I get when I ask people, what do you guys want me to talk about? God's honest truth. I've done a couple of shows on procrastination and perfectionism, but each time that I do this, I realize that there is a different aspect of it. Maybe I perhaps forgotten in the previous episodes. So I'm looking forward. If you're in the comments, feel free to chime in, ask me questions, whether you're live or checking it out on the replay via video cast, and I will answer those questions for you, because I'm here to serve. That's what I ultimately do. And if you're at all ever interested in working with me, I have a group accountability coaching program, which is phenomenal. It is amazingly affordable, and it is impactful. I just had somebody join yesterday, was one of our meetings. We do 2 Zoom meetings every single month, and she is already a changed person. When I first initially met with her, she was very lacking in trust of other people. She's been hurt, she's been betrayed, she's been backstabbed, she's been everything. But I spent an hour and a half with her on the phone or on a Zoom call, and I started shifting her perspective already. And just to see the change in her is magnificent. So when you take the time to invest in yourself and you get experts in your life, it's pretty incredible how each day can build upon itself, and you can really start ending that procrastination. And so if you're suffering from that, if you're dealing with that, if you're dealing with imposter syndrome or anything else, join the group, allow me into your life, start taking that progressive action with yourself. And I promise you, in 6 months to a year, you'll look back and you'll say the phrase that I commonly hear all the time: Chris, I wish I would have done it sooner. Because let's talk about it. Let's dive right deep into the deep end of the pool tonight. Regrets suck. And here's another thing I'm going to tell you that maybe you haven't thought of in a while, but I'm going to tell you this, and it comes with love and honesty to the nth degree, but you're going to die. We're all going to die one day, but guess what? Right now, we get the opportunity to live. We get the opportunity to make decisions and choices every single day that can build a legacy. Last week, I had a dear friend of mine, pass away suddenly. And it really rocked me to my core, because it reminds me personally, Chris, the guy that's talking to you guys, it reminds me that the time that we get here is really small. We think that we're going to live forever, especially if we're under 50. We think, oh, I've got so much time. I've got decades and I've got all this time. And we play the someday game with ourselves, right? Have you guys done that? Oh, someday when the kids are out of the house, someday when my ex-husband is not an asshole, someday when I have time to go to school, someday. And guess what? Every single day becomes every single week, and every single week becomes every single month, and every single month becomes a year. And then those years fly by, and then we look back on our life when we're in our 50s and 60s and 70s, and we realize, oh, wow, I don't have a lot of time left. right? And if you guys have listened to me for any length of time, you guys know that my legacy is all about the fact that when I die, I want to be remembered as the guy who risked for which that mattered, the guy who left the earth a better place for who he was and what he did. And so I think about that every single day when I wake up, and I set my intention for the day to make that powerful impact. Because when you have a big enough why, you have a big enough how. And when you realize that your time here is infinite, is not infinite, that it's very minimal, that can cause you to take that action. So I highly encourage you guys. Here's a set of notes you can take. Watch the hero's journey. It's called the Joseph Campbell story. It's on YouTube. If you have any difficulty in finding it, DM me. I'll send you the link for it. But it's super, super impactful to inspire you to realize that when we're going through the challenges in life, those are truly the opportunities. And when you think about this, I want to share this quote with you that I looked up about procrastination. And I love this. Procrastination is like a credit card. It's fun until you get the bill. Right? And you think about that. Here's a couple other quotes I want to get to you. Abraham Lincoln said, "You cannot escape the responsibility of tomorrow by evading it today." Think about that. You cannot escape the responsibility of tomorrow by evading it today. I have another quote, that one that just popped into my brain. Today is the tomorrow you worried about yesterday. Was it worth it? Today is the tomorrow you worried about yesterday. Was it worth it? And so many times we're living in fear. We're living in a state of imposter syndrome. Like, who am I to accomplish these things? Who am I to have these lofty goals? Who am I to start my own business? Who am I to write this book? Who am I to do whatever? Insert the blank here. You're put here on earth to be able to have this incredible experience. But so oftentimes we spend that time being fearful. And I'm here to tell you that 98% of all the fears that you have in your brain stay in your brain. They never actually occur in your real life, but they hold you back. And I'll give you an example of how fear and excitement are really the same thing. I was standing in line at Magic Mountain here in Southern California. It's a major roller coaster park, amusement park. And in front of me, the group of people were all excited. They're like, "Oh my God, look at that drop. It's going to be so much fun. It goes so fast. And I can't wait to do the upside down thing." And they were all excited about it. But the people that were standing in line behind me were like, "Oh my God, that's really steep. And what if the mechanics, weren't here? What if the parts break? Hasn't this park been here a long time?" You had excitement in front of me and you had fear behind me. The same situation, but a different perspective. And so what I want you to do tonight in this particular episode and in your life is just shift your perspective a little bit, right? So many times we're looking for the big thing. What is going to be the big thing that changes? I'm going to play the lottery. So many times people say, "I'm going to win the lottery." And I'm like, how many times do you play a year? 3. Right? You're not playing the lottery with your life. I hope you're not, because every day that you're here breathing is a gift. Because I know in my personal life, and I'm sure you can say that in yourself, there have been people in your life that have been gone suddenly, right? Heart attack, stroke, hit by a car, whatever it might be, they're gone. And I guess, and I'll bet you this, that when they're thinking about their life as it's passing before their eyes, I'm sure they're looking back and they're thinking, "God, I wish I would have said I love you more. I wish I would have done this more. I wish I wouldn't have talked so negatively about myself." So when you're thinking about procrastinating, what is it that you're going to do to be able to get out of that? And that's what we're going to be talking about here on the show tonight in deep detail. We got my buddy Walt McKinley in the house, Legacy Driven Marriages. What does he say? And he goes, "Our legacy matters. Like you said, that intention, 100%. And speaking of intention, here's how I start my morning. I start it with gratitude. Say what I'm grateful for. This is before my eyes even open, every single morning without fail. What I'm grateful for. Oftentimes it's a lot of the same stuff. And then I find 5 things to figure out what I'm grateful for in that moment. I'm grateful for the person who created my bed, because my bed gives me such a great night's sleep. I'm thankful. I'm grateful for the fact that I have a pool. I'm grateful, whatever it might be, I'm grateful. But then the next thing I do is I set that intention. My intention is to fulfill my legacy, to make this world a better place. My intention is to be present and playful with my son. My intention is to whatever the next thing might be. And so that when I go to sleep at night, I can sit there and look back on the day and say, what am I most proud of? Am I most proud of the fact that I went to the park today with my son and was present and playful with him? Hell yeah. Was I proud of the fact that I just got to experience a 2-hour seminar where I was on as a guest speaker with my buddy Walt, which by the way, I put the link in there in the comments. So if you guys want to go check that out, it was an amazing conversation. There was a bunch of featured speakers. Every single one of them was impactful. So I highly encourage you to go back and check it out. It's there on the screen to check it out in the Facebook. It'll be in the show notes as well for those of you guys listening on the podcast. Yeah, Walt says also here, no regrets, 100%. I got my friend Debbie in the house. She goes, great to catch you here. Thank you, Debbie, for being here. That's another great person to be following. And Walt also says here, Debbie, I hope you're doing incredible, my friend, 100%. We got Ted Legal in the house. He says, hey, Chris, nice to see you, bro. I am still in a rehabilitation center in McHenry. I had a couple of setbacks with infections in my legs and wounds opening on my chest from where I had glued my chest closed. Thank you, Ted, for being here. Ted had open heart surgery. He is unstoppable. He's been having so many different challenges in his life, but he's been a part of my group coaching program. And first and foremost, he has the attitude of sitting there saying, I am unstoppable. So when you speak to yourself, do you speak to yourself positively or negatively? We're going to be talking about that as well. We got Chris Kaysen in the house. He was actually just a part in the audience of the previous thing that I was a part of. So thank you, Chris, for being here. I appreciate you. I didn't get a chance to see your comments on the previous one, but Chris is an amazing friend as well. We got the opportunity to meet at the Power of We a couple of years ago in Chicago. So thank you, Chris. Chris is a tremendous individual. So I encourage you to follow him. He's got amazing insights into life and the road he's traveling as well. So we can all learn from one another. But what I'd like to do is I'm going to send Walt the link here, because I'm going to bring Walt on here because he is a dear brother of mine. So let me just hang on a sec here. Let me just send this to him on Facebook, and then we'll bring Walt on the show because I love to do spontaneity, and he is such a wealth of information. Let's give him a chance to get here. Chris also says I was being goofy in the chat. Oh, oh, good. I'm glad you're being goofy. I'm going to go back and check those out. But Walt has been a phenomenal brother of mine. We've shared many rooms in Clubhouse. If you guys remember Clubhouse, we've been on each other's shows. We've been mentors to each other. We talk every single week. So let me give him a chance to be in here, and we'll bring him on and we'll talk about procrastination. And then I'll share some of the other stuff that I was going to do. We got Jody in the house. Jody's going to be a guest on the show while I'm waiting for Walt. Jody's going to be a guest on the show. When are you going to be on, Jody? I'm literally, this is just a boast for a second. I told you guys that we're in the top 10%. I am booking literally into December, now January. I'm booked through December 31st. I booked somebody the other day who wanted to be on here to be his 1 year sobriety on December 31st, January 1st. So we're going to be bringing him on, but we're booking into January already. And so let's see, Jody's going to be on September 3rd. So thank you, Jody, for being here. Yep, she actually put here in the notes. And without any further ado, let's bring my brother Walt in the house. What's up, Mr. Walt?
Man, what's going on, brother? Look, I'm glad I was partially set up from the Daily Dose of Dano that we were just on.
I know. Wasn't that a fire conversation, dude?
Oh, man, I just get so much out of hearing you, out of hearing so many different speakers speak. And when you're around positivity, when you're around good things and people that are really authentically living a life that aligns with who they really are, it's just incredible. You know, and it's funny because, I was like, well, when you were like, I'm going to bring you on, I was like, oh, maybe next time. And then I was like, oh, it's about procrastination. Maybe
let me procrastinate some. Well, I know you got dinner on the stove and you got your favorite meal coming, but when you think about procrastination in your life, what has been something you procrastinated on, and what was the lesson you learned from that?
Oh man, like what haven't I procrastinated on? I think we've all procrastinated at one point or another in every single facet of our life. I think for me,
did you procrastinate on this? Ooh, monsters in my house, ladies and gentlemen.
At times, right? But I think the difference is to think about, we'll talk about the book. There were days when I was writing the book and I'd write 3,000 to 5,000 words because it was just flowing. And then there's days when I'd sit down to write and I'd have kind of like a mental block, or I'd write 500 words and then think, oh, I'm just kind of stuck right now. And here's the difference between taking a break and procrastination. Yeah. I would allow myself and give myself the grace in the moment to say, hey, I'm not going to force something in there and not serve people with the way I want to serve people in this book, and really inspire and motivate people in the way that I wanted to help them heal from their trauma. So maybe I would take a 2-hour break and then come back to it, or maybe I would come back to it the next day, but I never took more than like 1 or 2 days. It didn't mean I felt like doing it the next day. It just meant I was disciplined enough. And you talked about this in your opening. It meant my why was big enough that I was willing to push through maybe the lower energy or the moment that I was stuck, because the why was big enough for me to do that. And I think that people miss that component when they set vision, when they have vision and goals and I'm going to do this big thing. First of all, they don't focus on the micro things. They focus on the macro things. And so they get stuck, or they don't get that next macro goal that they have in front of them. And they stop and they quit. Versus if you're focused on those micro things, it was the next 500 words. It was the next 1,000 words, not the next 50 pages of my memoir that I was writing. And so doing bite-sized chunks allowed me to continue to stay disciplined and celebrate the success whenever I hit those milestones along the way. So, yeah, I mean, I think we procrastinate on everything. What about you?
No, I think it's a great point that so many times we feel overwhelmed by the enormity of something, but what you just said is perfect. Like, Brian Tracy wrote a great book. I'm not a big Brian Tracy fan, but Eat That Frog, Eat That Frog. I think that's what it was called. And I remember that it talked about breaking things into small bite-sized chunks and celebrating those wins, because so many times we look at the enormity. Oh my God, writing a book, that I'll do that someday. But when we just sit down and start writing, well, I don't know what to say. We'll just start writing and then it'll start to flow and you'll start to figure it out. But so many times people don't start things and they procrastinate because they think things have to be perfect. Well, it's got to be this. And because the deeper the fear is, the fear of being judged, people are going to look at it like, who are you to write a book? And then imposter syndrome sets in and stuff like that. What do you think about all that? What about you think about perfectionism and imposter syndrome? Because I know that holds a lot of people back.
Yeah, I think, first of all, you got to get rid of the trying to be perfect mentality. There's no perfect. I don't think I've done one thing in my life perfect. I think I've done things well. I think I've done things great. There's no perfect in life. And the quicker we get rid of that mentality that needs to be perfect, we'll stop being paralyzed by this fear of perfection and not taking the next step towards our goals or towards our dreams, towards a tough conversation in our marriage, towards having reconciliation with a friend, whatever it is. We're so fearful of these things and being exposed, and people seeing maybe us not at our best. And I got to tell you, I don't know what it is about people. I've never had this mentality. I shouldn't say I never. I have in my early 20s. Somewhere in my 20s, I decided to stop using the word failure. I decided to stop focusing on not failing and start focusing on the lessons I learned every time I put myself out there and I tried something different. So there's lots of things that somebody on the outside looking in might think, oh man, like you failed at that. Well, no, I didn't. I actually learned a lot. So when I did the next thing, whatever that was, whatever God put in my path, the way that I did it was elevated times 10 compared to if I never had the experiences and the lessons learned from the previous, evolution that I did. In the military, we take lessons learned from every single exercise that we do in preparation for war. Well, we do those exercises to prepare us because we know we're going to fail or have learning opportunities along the way. And the faster we look at failures as learning opportunities, the more we take that word out of there and just say, hey, I'm going to go out and I'm going to do this to the best of my ability in the way that I'm capable right now. And if I want to get 10 times capable from where I'm at today, I got to do this thing today and be okay sucking at it, maybe at first too, because of where it's going to go. And typically you do that and you focus on the lessons learned and you evaluate and you pivot and you adjust along the way. The results of what you get are greatly and significantly better than you thought they were going to be from the jump.
Sorry, I have a cat that's trying to fuck with shit. I told you I've got cats in my studio right now. I love what you said right there, and it's so important because when we shift our perspective, when we sit there and look at that, I said in the last show we were just doing, and I said, fail your way to success, and Dano said, challenge me on that, which I'm glad he did. He goes, well, is it really a failure? And I'm like, no, it's a learning opportunity, right? When we go through that hero's journey, we sit there and look back on our life. When have we learned and grown the most? When things were on easy street or when things were challenging, right? I've looked back on my life and I'm like, I've been through a lot of shit. I've been backstabbed. I've made mistakes. I've done all these things. I've stuck my foot in my mouth, But as long as I've learned from those experiences, those have been stepping stones to me becoming a better person, becoming a better man, becoming more trusting in myself. But I know I hear this all the time that people go by the script that has been before them. And that what they do is they create that negative self-talk within themselves. What do you say to people who have that story already written? Like, oh, Chris, you don't understand. I've been through this and I sucked at this and I did this. So why should I even bother? And they have that negative self-talk on repeat that's going to continue to be a detriment to their life. What do you say to those people to rewrite that story? Because you yourself have been through a tremendous amount of stuff. I mean, read his book, ladies and gentlemen, Monsters in My House. I thought I had a horrible story. Shit. So with this guy sitting in front of me being as successful as he has, I know you've had to rewrite the script in your life. So what do you say to those people? Yeah,
we got two paths. We ask ourselves the same two words, but the way we narrate it in our mind, and our minds can be the biggest liars sometimes, especially the way we talk to ourselves, are so different. So much of the world will say, what if? But when they ask themselves that question, they'll say, well, what if I go talk to this person and they reject me? What if I go for that promotion at work and I don't get it? What if I try to start a podcast and it doesn't blow up like yours has? What if I start helping people build their confidence and I really can't help them the way that I think? We ask ourselves, what if, and then we defeat ourselves before we even started. And what happens is you don't take action in your life. When you don't take action, you don't get any results. When you don't get results, you don't improve your belief. See, action is a prerequisite to the belief. Typically, you build your belief through the action. And conversely, so we say like, well, what if I talk to this person and they become my lifelong partner, my significant other? That's how I met my wife. Approached her in the middle of a bunch of girls, right? Way back in the 25 years ago, getting ready to have that anniversary. What if I try for that promotion? For me, what if I try for the officer program and I do get it? What if I leave corporate America, as scary as that was, and I write my memoir and I follow this dream of being a professional speaker in order to really inspire and motivate people to change their lives? What if the impact of what I think it could be is actually what it's going to be, or 10 times better than that? And when I did that, when I thought of it in that respect, I took action. Those action created results, which increased my belief. As my belief increased, belief is the most powerful human emotion that nobody talks about. That if you believe 100% unequivocally it's going to happen, you're going to take the messy, hard action, and you're going to keep grinding on it. As you believe, you take more action, you get more results. It's a difference between living in quiet desperation where you don't take any, and living a life where everything is on rocket fuel when you do take that action. So action creates results, which creates belief. You just have to have enough gumption and courage at the beginning to say, you know what? I'm scared. I might not get to where I thought I was going to get. I don't know if I really have the skills yet, but I'm going to try anyway. I'm going to take some of this action, and you will create some results, and then celebrate the results, man. As you celebrate the results, you're going to be like, well, I can do that again. Take action again. And next thing you know, you go from having a podcast, maybe where the first couple episodes were rough, to being as smooth as you are now on your podcast and really being an exceptional host. I think when you can change that narrative in your mind, and then you have to find the courage to take some action, your life will change. That's the choice you have. And choose your heart. Live your life in quiet desperation and struggle your whole life and never meet your goals, and be a contributor to the five regrets of the dying book that you talk about all the time.
All the time.
About what you wish you would have did, but you never did. Or flip that upside down on its head and chase after all of these things that we really want out of life, because that's really what it's all about.
That's true. So how, in that perspective right there, so many people want so many different things. What advice do you have for people to narrow it down to like the top three things? Because I know so oftentimes we're getting input from other people. Our parents want us to be this, our friends want us to be this, our spouses want us to be this. How important is being able to narrow it down and prioritize it? And then number two, how important is it to have the right people in your life feeding you the right feedback? Because so oftentimes we get, oh, you're so great at this and so great at that. But talk to us about those aspects.
Man, bro, like iron sharpens iron. I don't want people in my life who just tell me I'm awesome. Right now, of course, you don't want to beat somebody up either. I love, oh man, what you said was great. I love that golden nugget. I love this. I love that. But you
and I have that.
We do that all the time, right? Yeah. You and I contribute to each other's success by talking about ways that we can continue to improve in our craft, or how we all of a sudden we're going down a path and we think we're supposed to do this, but we end up shotgunning a bunch of different things, and we end up putting a lot of effort into a lot of different things. And because we haven't streamlined what we're doing, we end up struggling with the results we think we should have got. But it's because we're only putting 10% of effort into 10 things.
Yeah, that's been your biggest advice to me.
Right. Or you say, hey, I'm going to take those top 3 max. I'm going to prioritize which ones I'm doing. And maybe I do 2 at the same time, and that's about it. And now you're putting 50% or 100% of your effort into the one thing. And that's what you're chasing. And the thing is, like, people are going to be naysayers. People are going to tell you shouldn't do it. People are going to tell you that, well, I tried that and it didn't work for me, but they're not you. They don't have the same experiences. They don't have the same courage to do that. They don't have the same skill set, because life has blessed us with so many different things individually that we're going to do better than the person sitting next to us. So find what your strengths are, embrace those strengths, and just go all in. Just go and don't let the outside voices, or the inside one, right? The biggest liar of all.
Right.
Don't let them tell you that it's not possible, because literally everything is possible.
It is. And I love the fact that you keep focusing on the words. What are some words in your thought process that we need to eliminate from our language?
Oh, failure is one of them. Failure is probably like one of my biggest ones. I think people, it's interesting, probably about 2.5 years ago or so, with my wife, and she's amazing. And I'm so blessed that I had someone to love me in the moments that I was unlovable. And as we're getting to this empty nest stages and our kids are moving out and going to college and doing their thing, my wife was really struggling with trying to figure out what was next for her.
Yeah.
Because she's been supporting the kids and me for the last, we've been married 27 years, let's call it, because we've been together 27 years. And I said, okay, well, you need to do some affirmations, baby. Because words matter. What you tell yourself matters.
Yep.
And I was like, say I am worthy, because she's just struggling with her self-worth. And I'd never seen her really be like that. And she couldn't say it. And I was like, oh, now we're finna say it. Promise you, we're gonna say it. So I was like, get up, come on, shake it out, shake it, stand up, jump up and down. And she's laughing because I'm being
get your energy going.
Say, I am worthy. She's like, oh, like I'm worthy. No,
say what feeling.
Shit, like don't say it that way. Freaking warrior up, right? Like, and I didn't have a shirt on, so I didn't really say warrior up, but that's what I'm thinking in my head. Like,
you went and got it on though, right?
Say this shit right here, right? And I was like, I am worthy. And so she says it. Next thing you know, I got her jumping up and down. I'm like, say that shit like you mean it. She's like, I'm worthy. And I was like, yeah, feels good. But we tell ourselves lies based upon the history of what we've seen, what we've told ourselves, experiences, what our parents used to say to themselves, what they used to tell us. And then that starts to show as a reflection in where we're going. And so you think you can't do it, but you got all the skills. God has prepared you for the moments that are coming. And so words do matter. Affirmations, as goofy as I thought those were, bro. Yep. I'm a 20-year military guy. I'm a man's man. I was like, that's some dumb shit.
Yeah.
I realized how much negativity I was pouring into my own brain about myself. So those words matter. So get rid of words like failure. Start using words like I'm worthy. Start using words like, and you say it all the time, Chris. You ask people, what do you love? And they never say themselves.
Right.
Using words in the mirror, looking at yourself. I love you. Like, you're amazing. Say the things maybe you don't quite believe yet to build the belief. In 30 days, you will start to believe those things about yourself, and your whole life will start to change around you.
It's so true, man. I love what you're saying, because it really is about that. It's about that self-love. And so many times we feel like that's being selfish based on the conditioning process that we went through as kids, right? We become the people that we're going to become between the ages 0 and 5. And so from that point forward, we start finding that proof and that validation. Oh, see, I am a dumbass. Oh, see, I do suck. Or see, I'm bad at relationships. And that's why people start saying the 2 words I tell people to eliminate from their vocabulary: always and never. I always screw up. I never get it right. And so we rewrite that script in our brain. And of course, that's going to poison the well on what it means to take ownership of something and take control of something. So we just live in that zone of comfort, right? As long as I stay in this box, I know with certainty, because we're afraid of uncertainty, because uncertainty is uncomfortable. So we stay in this little box. If I do these things and I have these little vices, then I know what to expect and I'll be safe and certain. But then at the end of the day, do we show up here to be safe and certain, or do we come up in here to be truly living life and experiencing life? And so many people sit there and compare themselves to other people, right? They said they're, oh, well, Walt and Chris, they've got so much confidence and they're doing this and they've got podcasts and books and who am I to be that person? But when you take that leap, like it talks about in the video Jump, right? You guys go watch it. Steve Harvey on YouTube. If you guys want the link, let me know. It's 1 minute and 30 seconds. It's probably one of the most powerful videos. I played it here on the show a bunch of times. And in that, Steve Harvey talks about, like, we're comparing ourselves and that person's doing this and that person's doing that because that person jumped. Right? You're sitting there on the ledge going, man, I want to jump, but I'm afraid to fall. And he says, you're going to fucking fall. Your parachute's not going to open right away, but guess what? Your back's going to get dinged up. You're going to get scratched up, but eventually your parachute's going to open because you did jump. You need, like you said before, the power of belief. I sell these wristbands. If you guys ever want them, I do a shitty job of selling them, but the power of belief, right? I believe that if I continue doing this, the work, if I continue to take that imperfect action, I will get results, right? And so oftentimes we get overwhelmed. And I have this story that I love to tell people about overwhelm. Number one part of overwhelm is, what's the one thing I can do by which doing so will help alleviate the pressure? What's the one thing I can do by which doing so will get me started? Because we're so often, like I said, looking at the overwhelm of, like, I don't know where to start, but just what's the one thing I can do? I can put the pen in my hand and I could put the word on the paper. right? And I could put another word on the paper. I could put another word on the paper. One time I have a 69 Charger, which I'm very proud to say that I've had since I was 18. And I was rewiring the power windows in my 50s, right? And I'd already wired the power windows in my 20s. And I was sitting there looking at all these wires 30 years later going, fuck, I don't know which one to start. I don't know where to go. And that was back before the internet and before I could even Google a wiring diagram. And I'm like, Chris, you've done this before, but I felt so overwhelmed. I was like, I really don't know what to do. And this voice came inside of me and said, Chris, one wire at a time. What's the hot wire? What's the ground wire? What's the next wire that makes them go up? Right? Because you got all these different wires, and I was adding relays into there because I realized I didn't have relays in before, and that could fry your whole entire system. So I was adding these relays. I'm like, Chris, just one wire at a time. And so that's what I want for you guys is to think about your life. What's the one wire at a time? What's the one thing that I could start doing tomorrow? I could start talking better to myself. And so I tell people to eliminate the words always and never, and eliminate the word try. Because try is an excuse. I'm going to try to quit smoking. I'm going to try to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to try to write my book. Fuck all that and say, you know what? I'm going to own this. I'm going to take discipline. I'm going to take action. I'm going to write this motherfucking book because I don't want to die with any regrets. Right. So when you think about your life and you think about what you've been doing, what would you recommend for people to be able to ditch the embarrassment and ditch the judgment that they feel they might get from other people?
Okay, so first, before we move on to that, because I think there's one thing that you always say that I want to bring everyone back to, because I think it's pretty important. First of all, you talked about comfort. I think comfort will lead you to a life of quiet desperation. We're not meant to be comfortable. Like we're forged in the fire as human beings. That's where we grow the most. And when you realize that, then you'll run towards the fire. I think also, what do you say? Because you say a lot of times somebody will say, I can't do that. I'm not good at that. What do you tell them to insert at the end of that? Because I think it's such a thing.
The power of yet. I just told that yesterday. The power of yet.
Emphasize that for everybody, because I think it's so huge in a way that you can pivot your entire way you talk to yourself with one word, and that's the word yet. Talk about that.
It does. No, thank you for bringing that up. It was something that was on my mind. Yeah, I was just talking with somebody, the new person that joined the group last night, and she kept saying things, and I said, insert the word yet. And I said, how does that feel? She goes, blah, blah, blah. I haven't got up at 5 o'clock yet. And I said, what does that give you right there? She goes, that gives me possibility, right? It gives me the possibility that I can do it if I find the discipline, when I find the discipline, not if, when I find the discipline, because of course I don't necessarily want to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, but do I want the results? And when I do get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, how will I feel when I've gotten up at 5 o'clock in the morning? I'm going to feel amazing. I'm going to feel terrific. I'm going to feel proud of myself. We were talking about in the last show that we were doing with Dano about the power. When I go to sleep at night, I look for things. What am I proud of? I'm proud that I kept my promise to myself to be present and playful with my son. I'm proud of myself that I was able to serve via the podcast and that show and inspire people. So when you insert that word yet into the end of that sentence, that is an opportunity for you to say, okay, what is the next thing I could do? I could take pen to paper and write down something that I'm willing to take action on tomorrow.
I love it. And if you guys don't take anything else out of this show, I think you need to take that one thing out of this show that Christopher just talked about. And one thing to share with other people from the show that can change a narrative for so many of us. And Chris, you asked me, how do you get people beyond the judgment aspect of that? Like, first of all, recognize that we all got fear of judgment. Everybody wants to be liked at the end of the day. There's a cool Netflix show about blue zones, they call them. And it's
where older people live.
They're all 100 plus, the largest congregation of 100 plus people. And
I watched it.
It was 4 or 5 parts of the entire world, different locations, right? Different seasonalities, different temperatures, there's so many things that was different about these people who lived to 100. There was 2 things that was common every single place they went. That was purpose, and that was community.
Yep.
And I think community is something that we don't really talk about nearly as much as we do. People are going to judge you no matter what you do. You ever had people judge you if you did good, and they judged you if you did bad?
Oh, you were lucky.
If you're struggling, they're like, oh yeah, I knew, like they've been a fuck up since day one. I knew they weren't going to do anything. I knew that. I already knew they were going to be messing that up. I knew when they said they were going to go try that, they wouldn't. Meanwhile, all they do is sit on the sidelines and talk about people. Then you start doing something good, and those same people say, oh, look at you on your high horse. Oh, you're lucky. Oh, you're this. Oh, it's always an excuse again of why they're staying comfortable and living in quiet desperation and why they're not taking the same chances that you are willing to take. I find a lot of people that reach out to me about wanting to write a memoir. And I wrote some tough stuff in my memoir.
You did.
And people ask me, well, didn't you care about what people were going to think about you? And I said, no. And I'll tell you why. I said, because there's somebody out there that feels like they've been kept silent their whole life. I feel like my mission in life is to give a voice to the voiceless. This is part of why the why has to be big, because you push through these things.
Amen.
I feel like there's somebody out there that's going to say, but you don't really know what I've been through. And so how could you ever understand what I've been through? Because what you've been through is nothing like what I've been through. And I've had people tell me that until they read my story. And then they said, holy shit, if you can make it through that and be happy, be truly happy, and have a good marriage and have a good career and have these things in your life that have turned out well, damn, I can do it too.
Mm-hmm.
Back to belief, right? Like our stories and our testimonies and our messes are all supposed to be messages, right? God enables us. I find my spirituality through God. So you guys have heard me talk about that a lot. God enables us. He gives us free will to take the hardest things that have happened in our life, the things that have meant to grow us, the things that have sharpened us, the things that in hindsight you realize have made you stronger, more resilient, better, even have made you who you are. And when you love yourself, you realize it's all because of these experiences, even the most negative ones. But those experiences, that test that turned into a testimony, that message turned into a message, those experiences in life are actually made to help people grow themselves. And when you realize that, you stop fearing the judgment of the one that's going to talk to you, and you start focusing on the one that's waiting for you to tell their story, that doesn't need to hear Chris's story. They don't need to hear Walt's story. They don't need to hear anybody else's story on here. They need to hear your story, and your story is going to be the one that reaches them in their soul and changes their life. And then that's the day you know everything I've been through has been meant for something. Holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
See it so clear now, and your fear of judgment will go away and you will never have it again. But you first got to have the courage to realize, or the belief that you garner through conversations like this, that that's what it's meant for. That's how you get rid of the fear of judgment.
Amen. I love that. And it's really about surrounding yourself with the right people. And so many times we're doing it in isolation, right? When I think about this new person that joined my group coaching program, she was talking about trust. She goes, I don't know if I can trust you. And she goes, I don't trust anybody. And I said, well, allow me the opportunity to build your trust. Will you allow me that? Right. And so I created an opening to sit there. And then when we talked last night, when she was a part of the group, she was like, Chris, I can already feel myself trusting you. And I said, how does that feel? And she goes, that gives me hope. And so all we have to do is start peeling back the layers and invite ourselves to be out there and to get the right people in our lives, because I know I wouldn't be sitting here without my mentors, without you and the beautiful Jock Brokus, who is here commenting as well. Thank you, Jock, for being here. We got Paul Roscoe White watching us too. Thank you for being here.
What's up,
I wouldn't be here without my coach. I wouldn't be here without the people asking me the tough questions, saying, okay, Chris, why are you still here? What is it that's your big why? When are you going to get out of survivor mode? And I didn't realize that I was still in survivor mode. And when I broke that pattern of scarcity and realizing that I needed to have plan A, B, C, D, E, F, G, when I stopped consuming myself with having those plans in fear of not having everything, that's when I opened myself up to the opportunity to change what it is that I was focusing on and be able to take that imperfect action to be able to, quote unquote, fail my way to success. And taking that imperfect action every single day, we're not asking people to move boulders, but when you start to take that 1%, like, how can I grow and improve myself by that 1%? What questions can I start asking myself that by which will give me a different result? And sometimes that means wishing people from your life. And I know for me, one of the biggest things that I tell people to do is to sit down and write what you're tolerating from yourself, what you're tolerating from other people, and what you're tolerating from inanimate objects, and be honest and real with yourself. And when you stop tolerating those things, you open yourself up for so much more abundance and opportunity. Your vibration changes, your energy level changes, your excitement and enthusiasm for being able to go out there and succeed at things changes. So my question to you, and I know you have to let me know when you have to jet, because I know you have dinner on the table. What questions do you like to ask yourself, or what questions do you want to, do you invite people to ask themselves in order to shift what it is that they're focusing on? Because I know questions, when answered honestly, have the power to change circumstances immediately. Yeah. And for you guys watching, while you think about that, write in the comments what your favorite questions are to ask.
Well, I think the first question I think people need to ask is, who am I? Like,
Go deeper on that.
Who am I?
I'm Chris. I'm a husband.
Do I have integrity? What do I want out of life? Have I been willing to go chase it, or have I sat on the sidelines my whole life? I think the number one thing, and even the Legacy Driven Marriages podcast that Stephanie and I do, everything is about building awareness first. I think emotional intelligence and emotional awareness, especially, is such an underrated skill. I think if we put that as a priority skill in our lives, everything we would do would look different. We'd have so much more success.
Amen.
If you don't have awareness, you can't even make the choice to change. And so I think first you got to really think about, who am I? To your point, Chris, what am I tolerating? Who adds value to my life, and who takes value away from my life? What boundaries have I set that are like the little foam cushions that you could just smack to the side and push down and push away? What boundaries do I need to make immovable because I respect myself enough to have them? Which, because by the way, the people that disrespect your boundaries are the ones that don't have respect for you. They're the ones that's all about them. It's all about their emotions and how they feel. And then start asking yourself the why question every single time you get triggered, because we all get it. I still get triggered on certain things.
Me too.
If you react negatively to any situation, and it's like this escalatory reaction that spirals you out of emotional control, right? This is why emotional awareness is important. You need to take a step back after the moment, because it's really hard to do in it, and say, why did I react so visceral emotionally to what they just told me? How come when my wife said to me, no, you didn't really say that, here's what you said, did I get so pissed? Because that's one thing I used to get really pissed off about. You know what? Like, that's basically calling me a liar. I don't know why you're calling, but you know why? Because I was told I was a liar and I wasn't going to be anything my entire childhood. So when I felt like she didn't believe me, or she was telling me what I said instead of what I felt like I actually said, what she heard was different. That's why her narration of what I said was different. That's her truth, right?
Yep.
What I actually said, I felt like was different. Neither of us were actually wrong in the moment, but my reaction, that would make me have a shitty tone, or would make me really short, or would make me shut down, or would make me be mean and say something mean-spirited back.
Yep.
That negative reaction I had needed to be remedied. So you got to ask yourself, why did that bother me so much? And be honest enough with yourself to really make the change you need to make. And without the awareness of, like, that whole reaction to not getting promoted that I just had, that whole reaction I just had to my spouse, that whole reaction I had when my kid came home at 11:05 after curfew instead of 11, was pretty unnecessary.
Yeah.
Why did that bother me so much? Only then can you really start to do the inner work that's going to give you the freedom that you've been missing. It's the thing that takes that elephant that's sitting on your chest. I like to say it's a thing that keeps you from, living your life feeling like you're drowning. Like, you can see the light, you can see that there's air there, but you just are drowning in your life and you can't ever seem to get past that. It's because you still have some healing and some inner work to do. When you get real about that, it's like somebody cuts that chain, that anchor that's been holding you to the bottom of the ocean, and you can burst out. And that first breath, we've all been held underwater and came out like, oh, and it's dreams and it's belief. And it's like, I can finally start living, like really living my life, instead of sitting here in quiet desperation like I've been. It is a freedom unlike anything you would ever know. So that was my long-winded answer of questions you should ask yourself.
No, I love that. And what you're talking about is, I was doing this with somebody else last week, and I said, you're carrying around all these all these worries and all this negativity and all this resentment and all this anger towards everybody that's wronged you in your life. And I said to them, what would it feel like if you just let that go? What would it really feel like? How much weight would be lifted off your shoulders if you just let go of all that anger and that animosity? And what you just said was so on point, that reaction. Right? Because we're so often so on guard. Like, if some motherfucker says something to me, I'm going to be ready to be defensive, and I'm going to react. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to put them in their place. And what does that do? That puts them on the defensive mode. Nobody's listening to one another. We're all just preparing what we're going to say next, because we have to win. We have to win the argument. And it all goes back to that. Am I willing to lose the battle to win the war? Or is it important for me to win the battle and lose the war? And so I think that's so important. Like you said, you have to catch yourself in that moment. And you and I and Jock all think the same thing, because Jock said here, awareness, acceptance, and choice.
Amen.
I say the triple A's: awareness, acceptance, and action. So it's awareness that there's a situation. You don't have to sit there and accept responsibility for it necessarily. You have to be aware of it. The next thing is that acceptance. Okay, what is it? I accept that I'm in this situation right now, but then that action. And you just said the same thing, is like, we have to take that responsibility to no longer be a victim. And I think that's the bigger question for us to ask ourselves. Is, I love saying things this way. I love saying, when did it become acceptable? When did it become acceptable to be a victim? When did it become acceptable to shoot myself in the dick all the time? When did it become acceptable to worry more about what other people say than what I say to myself? When did it become acceptable to give myself all sorts of excuses and self-sabotage myself, so I actually never wind up really truly living my true life? I wind up experiencing it through other people's experiences, right? When did that become acceptable? And the answer should always be no. It's not acceptable. Right. Yeah. And my friend Bob Donnell says, when it becomes acceptable, it becomes inevitable. So when we sit there and say, when did it become acceptable to be a doormat for everybody else? And I ask people, like, when are you going to decide to stop being a doormat for everybody else? I love Jacqueline here asked a question that I'd love to get your thoughts on. How do you get people to respect you?
I think first you got to respect yourself.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that, because that was my answer. I'm like, yeah, you got to respect yourself. And not fakely, right? So how do people get that true respect for themselves?
When did I allow this?
Yeah.
When did I allow people to push over my boundaries or jump over them like they're an inch off the ground? When did I allow people to start treating me in this manner, right? That's where you do the deep work. But then you got to ask yourself, what boundaries do I need to set?
Yeah.
Do I respect myself enough to have boundaries and actually hold people to them? Because again, the people that will try to step over or push the boundaries or say, you know what, you changed. Yeah, you know what, I have changed. I'm not just going to let you treat me like however you feel like you need to treat me. I'm going to respect myself more than that. And by setting boundaries, you teach people how you will or won't be treated.
Oh yeah. Can you talk about a time in your life where you had to do that? Because I know that's profound for me. And people call me a dick and an asshole and selfish. But I said, you know what? I'm going to go to bed tonight with pride in myself, because normally I would have let you treat me that way, but I'm no longer going to tolerate it.
Okay. So I'm going to give you guys a good example, because I did this with my life hero. Those of you guys, it's in my book, Monsters in My House, a True Story. My aunt saved me from the abuse that I was going through at 15 and a half. And at 18 years old, I guess, gosh, 20 years old, because I was in the Navy. The first time I came home in the Navy, they still had beepers. That's how long ago it was, right? No cell phone. Beepers. You go to the payphone, put the quarter in. Y'all remember that? She was working a lot of hours, and a couple of my buddies had came into town from 5 hours away. They were dumping oil in his shitty ass car the whole way just to see me, because I was in town for a week. And so my aunt texted me, and I said, hey, well, I'm going to hang out with Robert and James. So like, I'll see you later tonight once I get back to the house. And she was so pissed that I did that. And this is my life hero, guys, right? So you want to talk about a tough boundary to set. And she kind of went off on me. And I said, I'm not going to let you talk to me like that. I don't deserve that. My friends drove from 5 hours away. I've spent a lot of time with you. Really, she was just upset because she wanted to spend time with me, right?
Right.
But I had to set a boundary in that moment. And I said, I'm just probably not going to talk to you when I get back. And there wasn't an easy way to get a hold of me when I lived in the barracks. You had to call a payphone. Hopefully someone answered it, then went to my room to find me. It was a whole thing. So about 3 months later, I called her, and it was hard for me not to call. It was hard for me. Yeah. But I said, if I don't do this, then I'm teaching her that this is okay. Yeah. My life hero, right? And she's coming up this weekend for her birthday. She was here we're with each other all the time still. And I called her, and she said, oh my gosh, I missed you so much. And I said, I just can't have you talking to me like that. Like, I won't have you disrespect me in that way. She goes, I'm really sorry. She's never talked to me like that again, ever. And I was 20, and I'm getting ready to turn 48. That was 28 years ago. You teach people how you will and won't be treated by the boundaries that you set. But first, you got to respect yourself enough to have them. And I get people to respect you.
It's true. And the thing I want to share with people based on what you just said, well, that was perfect, is the fact that, okay, so how do I respect myself? And I was telling this to somebody, actually the new coaching client that I got yesterday, and she goes, what can I start doing to myself? And I said, I'll give you the simplest opportunity for yourself. When I say opportunity, keep your promises to yourself. Keep your promises. That's when I did. People who know have been following the podcast or following me for any like the time, I've done 75 hard 3 times. If you guys don't know what 75 hard is, go Google it. But the thing I learned in there is discipline. And I learned that, okay, I kept a promise to myself that I'm going to do this for 75 days. I'm going to do 2 workouts a day, 45 minutes a piece, whether I feel like it or not. When you keep promises to yourself, ladies and gentlemen, you go to bed tonight. Do I respect myself a little bit more tonight than I did yesterday? Yes. Okay. When I wake up in the morning, what's my intention? My intention is to keep my promises today. What's one promise that I'm going to keep for myself today? I'm going to talk positively to myself. And then as you're going throughout your day and you catch yourself, oh, I always screw up. You know what? No, I don't always screw up. Let me find something that I've done something that I didn't screw up. Okay, let's celebrate that. Do a happy dance, right? And change your physicality and then realize, okay, what is it that I can continue doing? And what is the key to me keeping my promise to myself? I'm not keeping my promises that other people want me to keep. I'm keeping that promise. I'm having integrity with myself. And that goes back again to that big why. When you realize, okay, if I died tomorrow, who's going to show up and what were they going to say? They're going to say, wow, Walt was a man of integrity. Walt walked his talk. That's what I put when you were speaking on the show last time. I said, Walt does walk his talk. I know him personally. We talk every single week. So when you sit there and you do that and you keep that promise with yourself, you build that integrity, you build that confidence, you build that new certainty. You rewire your brain to realize, you know what? It may be hard. It may be tough, but on the other side, is it going to be worth it? Hell fucking yeah, it's going to be worth it. And how about this? How about if I get excited when a problem arises in my life because I can look at it as an opportunity and I can look at it as an opportunity to keep promises to myself and build that self-respect so that when people come into my life, they respect me. And the people in my life that don't choose to respect me, I wish them the fuck well. My sister, my best friends in my life, I wish them well. Now you're being an asshole, you're being you can say whatever the fuck you want. You can spray paint it on a goddamn wall. I don't give a shit. As long as I go to bed at night feeling comfortable about myself and I know that I've been growing, I'm not the same person as I was when I was 30. I'm not the same person as I was when I was 45. I'm not going to be the same person at 60 when I'm fit. I'm going to look back on when I'm 55. I'm going to be a better version of myself because I look forward to those challenges and keeping those promises to myself.
And that's also how you build confidence. It's the same exact way, right? I always say confidence is built from the promises you keep to yourself. Yeah. And by the way, there's going to be times when you have a bad day and maybe you do 75 hard and on day 57, stuff happens, life happens and you don't get your day in, right? Things like that happen, but you got to give yourself some grace along the way. And that doesn't mean you sabotage everything that you've done. That means you just pick up and keep moving. Mm-hmm. And so many people who just sabotage and scrap what they're doing because they're not seeing those immediate results or because they had a rough day or whatever it is, you got to allow some grace and some aspects of your life for that to slip just a little bit and then pick up and keep moving along the same day, along the same way that you're headed. So I think that's a big piece of that too, Chris, is we don't give ourselves enough grace. We don't find forgiveness for ourselves along the way. And then we continue to struggle and we continue to self-sabotage and we continue to let this be the liar that just continues to help us spiral in a negative downwards place. But our mind is so powerful. And again, you just talked about a second ago, it was the action results belief, man. You did 75 hard. You showed yourself you could do it. Then you did the next thing. Then you did the next thing. Then you did the next thing. But what I know about you too, and this is the last thing I'll say on this is really important. I think another aspect of it is to live life congruently. And you talk about that a lot too, Chris. There's a lot of people that I've met who are portraying one thing on the outside, who are living the Instagram life, man. They want you to see all the goodness. Yep. And they never talk about the challenges in life that actually help them get to where they are, the challenges that might save somebody else's life and give them the belief because they're so worried about the fear of judgment, so worried about showing up a certain way for somebody else. And I got to tell you, the way to get in a live in quiet desperation and the way to live your life with the most regret is to portray something that you're not. The happiness is really measured with living life congruently. And when you can live congruently, you can live freely with who you are without the fear of judgment. You can really be in alignment with your spirit. You can go after the things that light you on fire and you're really excited about. And by doing those things, you're going to live your life in a way that 99.9% of the world just doesn't.
Yeah.
When you do, people are going to start asking you, how are you so happy? God, you seem so free. I feel like I can tell you anything. Oh my God. I just want to be able to just go into a room and light up the room like you. I can't believe you always got a smile on your face. How do you do that? And you can just say, by being who I really am.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if we all could be who we really are. The world would be different.
Fucking world would be amazing. It'd be so amazing. Dude, tell people where they can get a hold of you. We've been going for an hour. You and I could like talk for 10 hours.
My life spaghetti and homemade meatballs out there out of the cast iron skillet. I'm ready to go.
I can smell it. I can smell it.
I can really literally smell it.
I know. I can imagine.
You can find me on waltmckinley.com. I'm on all the socials, Walt McKinley Inspiration, Instagram, Walter McKinley on Facebook, and then just Walt McKinley on LinkedIn also. But easiest way to find me and what I'm doing and what I'm up to is go to waltmckinley.com. So Chris, hey man, I love you, bro. I was so excited to jump on here. I was just coming in here about procrastination tonight, one of my favorite topics. And but you just continue to change the world, light the world on fire. And I love to also see like the behind the scenes stuff that you're doing and where you're growing and where you're challenging yourself and where you challenge me. As we continue to mentor each other, right? And that iron sharpens iron mentality. So I'm just blessed to be on this journey with you, brother, and super excited to jump on here impromptu with you following the last event we just did just a few minutes ago. So thank you for having me on here. And thank you.
It was an honor and a pleasure. I figured we were going to go for about 10 minutes, but I should know us better by now. We could do a part 2 right now and go for another hour, but I appreciate you. Go enjoy your dinner. I'm going to wrap up this show, but I love and appreciate you. I'll talk to you tomorrow and we'll catch up.
All right. Love you, brother. Hey, love y'all in the chat. See you guys later. Bye.
Cheers, man. Peace. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Go to waltmckinley.com. If you need to know how to spell McKinley, it's McKinley, waltmckinley.com. Pick up his book, Monsters in My House. I love it so much. I keep it right here because I offer you guys to go check it out, because when you see what other people are capable of, it inspires you. And I love what Jock said here. He says, your mind is the psychological building blocks of your reality. And it's so true. Really what you tell yourself, the words and the language that you use is so massively important. You know, we have YouTube, we have Google, we have ChatGPT, we have podcasts, we have Audibles, we have all this opportunity to pour into our brains. But what do? We binge watch a fucking series of Netflix. And what good does that really do for us? It causes us to escape our reality. Me personally, every single day, I'm listening to positive content. I watch YouTube videos on a situation that I'm struggling with, whether it's aphantasia, which is the inability to visualize my brain. I'm studying attachment styles right now. I'm studying the 5 love languages again. I'm looking at how ADHD is a gift rather than a curse. So I'm constantly infusing my brain with opportunities for me to grow and to learn. And that's what I do this show for, is because I'm offering you this advice through my experiences of what I could do for you. So if you don't have somebody in your life who is that positive reinforcement, that person that's questioning what it is that you're doing or not doing, get me in your life. Like I said at the top of the show, my group accountability coaching is extremely affordable and it's super impactful. I do it out of the greatness of my heart. I'm not making a whole lot of money on it, really, honestly, with you guys. I make my money off my one-on-one coaching clients, but it's an opportunity for me to continue to serve. And what I ask you to do from that is to pay it forward, right? I want to catch a couple of these comments right here. I'm not a commercial, but you guys can check it out. Andrea, what's up? I appreciate you being here. It's been a while. She says, keep moving forward. We did always have days where we don't do what we said. Definitely have grace on yourself. It's okay. True. Don't beat yourself up over what you didn't do. Beat yourself or congratulate yourself for the fact that you're aware of those situations and you accept the situation. And then what is it that you're going to do to take action on that? It's 100%. Andrea, I have so many different Andreas in my life. She said, start with one thing and do it consistently. 100%. How do you keep your promise to yourself? Get up every single day. You heard me talk about it. The 5: hydration, nutrition, sleep, exercise, and vitamin D. Every single day, half your body weight in ounces of water. This alone will change how you feel. And when you start to feel differently, you start to do better. Like, oh my God, I feel so much better. I want to eat some vegetables and some fruits. I want to pour into myself because the clarity that I'm starting to get is better. I'm going to go out and get some exercise. I'm going to get some vitamin D, 10 minutes of sun every single day. That helps stave off depression. For me, I have to take a vitamin D supplement. I found out that when I took a vitamin deficiency test, I needed that. So when I started taking it, I started feeling even better. So when you empower yourself with this, when you empower yourself with a positive self-talk and you get the right people in your life, you will stop procrastinating. So if you came into the show halfway through, go back and check it out from the start. It's powerful. There's a lot of opportunities and a lot of strategies in here for you to change your life. And I'm here to help. I appreciate you, Mark Cox, being in the house. I appreciate you guys. We got Jacqueline in the house. I hope I answered your question. Let me know if I didn't. Jock, thank you so much for being here. Chris Kaysen, thank you so much for being here. Paul Roscoe White, thank you so much for being being here. All the beautiful people that are watching. Ted Legal, thank you so much. Jody, thank you so much. All you guys help me become a better person. So I love and appreciate you guys. Go out there, be brilliant, take action on the stuff that I talked about tonight, and come back here next Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Subscribe to the podcast and go out there and rock your ass off. I love you guys. Peace out.